Friends, Sunday 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and we are back with our program of Virat Hindustan Sangam known as Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom, which you all know we beam at 8 p.m. across the globe for the benefit of our viewers who are following Dr. Subramanian Swamy on the various social media channels. Today is our 128th episode, and our discussion will be today on the Indo US relations recent developments. And we have today two guests to discuss with Dr. Swamy. One is Sree Iyer, the author, writer, inventor who is behind the famous website known as P Gurus and who has been an expert on various matters concerning India and the US. We also have our own person who is always with our show, that is Ramesh Swamy, who is based in uh, New Jersey, who is a IT entrepreneur. He, along with Sree Iyer, Ramesh Swamy, Sree Iyer, and Dr. Swamy, will be discussing this topic in the next 1 hour. I have to thank my co-host, Professor Arvind Chaturvedi from Delhi, and also our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Tejas Navalgul from Pune, Gadgi Rakesh from Karnataka, Ishwar Iyer from Navi Mumbai, Swaminathan from Chennai, and Vishal Mehta from Mumbai for their support to put this program together. So with this opening remarks, thanking our viewers across the globe, and to tell our viewers we value your support. Our last Sunday episode had crossed 56,000 viewers. So we thank you for your support. So with these words, it's over to Dr. Subramanian Swamy for his introductory remarks on the topic and to guide the discussion forward. Thank you.
Okay. I need to begin by first fixing my the screen. This visit of Modi is a what I would call as a touch that we think will indicate to all of us the true state of our Indo-US relations. Now, Modi had a meeting with both the president and the vice president, and he was not on an official visit of the United States. He was on a visit to what they call as the United Nations General Assembly, and therefore we had a situation where we had a problem with whether the Prime Minister should be received by the President or not, and it agonized for time, and ultimately it was decided we will have an informal meeting of the Quad, the original Quad of 4 countries, United States, India, Japan, and Australia. And that Quad meeting discussion, I have some report of it, and I'll show you what they discussed, but it's quite clear from that the discussion was only on economic issues. There was a general reference to terrorism, but there was no reference to either what Pakistan is doing or what China is doing. There's just no mention whatsoever, which is a interesting thing, because I have downloaded a news item which reads, US sobered, now holds talks with Pakistan on priorities in Afghanistan. So while this meeting of Modi was going on, the Secretary of State Blinken, he was meeting the Pakistanis to discuss how to proceed further on Afghanistan, which means that Pakistan is no more a outcast for the Americans for having sided with Taliban. And in fact, they are thinking of using Pakistan to deal with the Taliban in Afghanistan. So now that's bad news for India to begin with, and it happened while Modi was in while Modi was in Washington. The second thing I would like to say is that the Washington Post, which is a Washington-based newspaper, has an article by a person who has been a long critic of Modi. And it's a very hostile piece, prominently displayed, and so did the New York Times. So the media has, first of all, not covered it at all. Here there were, 24 hours of what was happening. But in the United States, no TV to my knowledge, and we have got two people who are resident in the United States, great patriots, as well as with the VHS. One is, of course, a regular anchor, and Ramesh, and the other is Sree Iyer, who's become famous because of his own programs. And both will tell us exactly what the atmosphere was compared to, say, when Modi came at the time of Trump. So I'll begin by first posing a question to the two experts here who are from the presently resident in the United States. Was Modi's trip worth it? I'm not talking about the UN just now. I'm asking you whether, for all this hype and so on, in the end, do you think that this trip was worth taking and making so much effort to hold it? No. So that's question number one. Question number two is that now that even while all this was going on, the Quad that we originally became member of to deal with China, and in fact the first statement made when we joined it was that it will block China. This Quad meeting has been preceded by a one-to-one long meeting with Xi Jinping of Mr. Biden. And after that, I see no reference in anything, either by India or in a joint statement or whatever, any reference to China or to Pakistan. And Pakistan, I've already shown you that now the Americans, being practical people, they have decided that there's only one way to deal with Afghanistan, and that is through Pakistan. And that's bad news for India. According to me, I'd like the two of them to respond to that. Now, the third thing is, on the economic side, do we have a most favored nations status? When China opened out to the United States in 1972, it rapidly became a most favored nation, which means tremendous concessions on what you can export and the lower rates of tariff and all that. And we haven't had it. So there's no mention of MFA in anything except that we must increase trade with India and all that. So what is even if the Quad is downgraded to economic issues, and from what I can see from the statement made by the United States, they're saying that the Quad will be very effective in the question of climate and the question of vaccines. Now, to say that this whole effort is only for that sounds as a huge downgrade. Fourth question, I want you to speculate, because I believe now it's certain from my sources in Indian government that November S-400 will arrive. I was only yesterday night in a dinner told by someone who knows about American establishment, that the sanction documents for India have been prepared and are kept in the State Department to be announced immediately after the S-400 arrives. They didn't spare Turkey, they are not going to spare us also, I'm told. Now, that would be a major, major serious thing. Now, when I ask this question, then how can the relations with India and the United States continue? So they say, well, you are having the Chinese have occupied your territory, but you are continuing to meet them. So well, I don't see why you should have any difficulty meeting us. That's another insult. And I would like to know from the American-based Indian experts, what do you think will happen if S-400 is finally arrives in India? And finally, long years ago, 2008, I had held a conference in Cochin of Harvard University, Tsinghua University from China, and in Kerala there is a school for management studies. So the three of us in the School for Management Studies, we had a 2-day conference where topmost experts of their country, professors from these two top universities. Xi Jinping himself went to Tsinghua University. So they came, and the advisor to Xi Jinping now, Yuan Shuitong, professor of political science in Tsinghua, he was also there. That time there was serious talk by Chinese delegation of a triangular relationship emerging in the world of India, China, and the United States. Today I find India nowhere being discussed, despite so many years having passed. I mean, almost 14, 15 years since that conference, when it was an obvious thing and it was being proposed. So I would like to know whether India has been now gradually reduced to a regional power, and that too a ineffective regional power. I mean, has the Indian status been going steadily down? I'm not mentioning which tenure alone, because I'm saying it has been a long decline. And so why? And should we aspire to be part of the global triangle of India, United States, and China? Or we should say this is a duality, a dual game of between the United States and China, and we are just one of the watchers on. So over to begin with, I'll have to start with Sree Iyer, because he is truly the guest, because Ramesh is one of us. Just in Hindi they say Ghar ka muli, and so he will get second preference. So over to you, Sree Iyer. Please let us know, although your background is Pakka Tamil, but still, and your dress is Pakka Tamil, but we know you're living in America. So please tell us the American point of view or how it is being perceived in the United States, according to you, this visit of Modi and the Indo-US relationship. How is it regarded? How seriously, how respectfully it is regarded? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy, and a warm welcome to all our viewers who are from VHS and various other organizations. It's been an honor and pleasure always to be on your channel, sir, to discuss things the way I see it and how this trip of Modi is playing out. The first question that you asked was it worth it? Dr. Swamy, whenever you come with one purpose and you work on something else, then the pressure on you to deliver on the something else is much less. So therefore, I would say it is worth it. But having said all that, what is the importance of those 5 CEOs that Mr. Modi met? There were 4 who had technology or technology oriented. One was in solar, one was in drones, one was in software, and the 4th one, I forget what it was. It is not very important. The 5th one is perhaps the most significant, which was, I think, BlackRock, Schwartzman, who is one of the biggest VC firms. So Modi must have told him, look, we are open for business. We would like you to invest. And that may be one key thing that could be, useful in the long run, where these VCs decide that, yes, India is a desirable destination. Certainly, sir, there was a Goldman Sachs report which said that looking at these new startup ecosystems that are coming up in India, they expect about 200 or 250 in about 5 years' time, and the combined valuation of these, that is the startups and the valuation, expected to be around $5 trillion valuation, not actual output. They're two different things. These valuations can be 20x, 30x sometimes.
So not GDP, but assets. Yeah.
Yes, not at all, not at all. So that's a good thing, because if these startups actually grow in India and don't get sold out to some other company and the founders cash out, in which case nobody actually benefit. But if it grows in India organically, then it has the potential to give 10x, up to 10x, because these are high paying jobs that create the other opportunities for services and so on and so forth. So that was, I think, to me, was an important meeting. And the pledge I'm hearing, and I'll have to look at the real numbers, is upwards of $50 billion. That's a big number, but that's like 1/10 of what we have. But that is over how many years, and for what metrics they are going to look for, so that they know that India is delivering. Because last I checked, Dr. Swamy, in the budget, the finance minister announced that a single person, foreign person, such as myself, can start a company in India. And I'm still looking for the rules, because I'd like to test pilot this. I'd like to test pilot this to see if I'm able to do that. And I haven't really gotten hold of it. I know many people from the PMO and other places watch it. Please send it to me. You know how to reach me. If not, it is S as in Sam, I as in Iyer, @pgurus.com. You can send me an email. I'd appreciate it, because I want to try and test this thing out. So anyway, having said that, these are all little things, because the action on the ground is what is important. The other thing that he did, which is to say that he's going to bring back 157 idols, that is a welcome step. However, I must say, 2 years ago also I heard the same thing, and maybe now they are ready to be exported back to India. Sir, in my opinion, this is just the beginning, because all these 157 idols, or murtis, we should say murtis, not idols, murtis, have to be pratishtha back in the same temple that used to be there, and
that's the condition.
And the Kumbhabhishekam has to be done, and based on not a particular political leader's birthday or something, nakshatra or something, but on the nakshatra of the temple of the deity and the person who is going to be performing the Kumbhabhishekam. We have a great leader in Tamil Nadu who, on that person's birthday, wanted Kumbhabhishekam done in 108 temples. This is all like, total disregard for what is Agama Shastras and what the Shastras say. Anyway, it didn't help that person, didn't live to be too long. Anyway, that is point. The golden opportunity, in my opinion, Dr. Swamy, is for the BJP government, especially in Tamil Nadu and perhaps in Kerala, to start really working with somebody local. I don't want the lumpens that we call as HR and CEs of these states to come in the way. They are not coming in the way. And I would like somebody like VHS take up the thing, saying that under the aegis of VHS, we are going to start finding the funds, finding the way to try and get these Kumbhabhishekams done, because VHS is a non-political organization. If you put your name behind it, Dr. Swamy, the lumpens will stay away. The rowdies who are, they need to stay away. You are not wanted. The people of the villages will take care of these new temples. Such a great thing, sir. For 15 years, the murti goes missing. It comes back. It is like the whole temple becomes alive. The village becomes alive. Anyway, I'm just getting a little ahead of myself here, but this is the work is beginning now. This can be done. It should be done. And if it is done, it would also be one of the sure signs of renaissance that the Indian government is determined to get back what it lost. And it would have been nicer for the PM to have stopped over perhaps at a certain store in Italy and pick up the artifacts lying around. The alleged owner is the sister of a person whose name we shall not mention. The shop names are things like Ethnica, Ganesha, and so on. It gets more interesting, Dr. Swamy. What is also interesting is the person who helped in this endeavor to smuggle the antiques, Mr. Muthuswamy Varadarajan. He was the late Cultural Secretary of India. He was also the Chela of Indira's trusted aide, Pupul Jayakar.
Yes.
And guess guess what his son is up to these days? He's running a website in India, total vitriol against Modi. It would have been a great payback for Modi to the said ex-cultural secretary's US-born son. But then,
yes, he's also a US citizen.
yes, he is also a US citizen. That's why I said US-born son. So it would have been poetic justice, in my opinion. But I guess we can only hope. But one word of mention here: this whole thing was the work of India Pride Project initiative by Anurag Saxena and Vijay Kumar. These were the guys who did the hard yards. They took the pictures of. They took the pictures from various publications about 100 years old and then compared the Murthy pictures with those in the museum. Somebody was actually going to these museums, paying money from their own pocket, going to this particular exhibit, finding out that, oh, yes, this is the same thing, and then submitting the evidence to the museums in the United States saying that this is actually being stolen from this temple. Here is the proof. And that is how all these things got aggregated, and they were lying in a customs warehouse, I believe, in New York, and they've been lying there for many years. It's not like it was yesterday or today. It was been there for some years now. But I'm glad that it is being brought back, but I don't want these things to be brought back and put in another warehouse in Delhi, and then suddenly somebody found a route directly from that museum to the seaport, and then again they go back and find themselves in Sotheby's or Christie's. This is entirely happening in India because the original guy who's the lumpen who did all this smuggling, his name is Kapoor, and a nasty character. Yes. And in India has a great way of letting go of all the criminals, but they will catch the officer who did the actual work, and they'll dismiss that person. I'm going to stick it in because I am so upset with this kind of babudam that they are out to cover their backs. Anyway, long story short, let's get back to the trip. Yes, I think it was worth it, provided, like I'm putting a lot of provisos here, that these things, there should be some transparency, that these idols are being stored here, that there is a plan, that these temples are going to be, for that they need help, and I'm sure through VHS we can do that help. Temple Worshipper Society, Mr. T.R. Ramesh is an authority on agamas, and he would be happy to help out, saying that, okay, this Murthy, this should be the thing, this is the nakshatra, this is the thing, this is what we will do it, and we will invite Mr. Modi. Modi ji can come and participate in this Kumbhabhishekam. We have no problem. The thing has to be done right. It should not be done in a way that it looks like, it's a publicity exercise. It is not. This is the renaissance that we need to do. That's why I'm wearing this, sir. And that's why I have a Gopuram in the backdrop, because it is my fond hope that we complete this thing. We are just begun. So anyway, that is one. The other thing you asked about is India's, what is happening in India's role in Afghanistan, why it is being shunned. So Pakistan just essentially...
Well, particularly on Indo-US relations, have they improved? Have they still the same, or they have deteriorated?
I'm not sure it deteriorated, Dr. Swamy. I think, remember that Blinken was on a trip. He came to India. That was a very good trip. A lot of things got agreed upon. But you see, India is, they say something, but they don't follow up. I think that is the reason why the United States is perhaps saying, marketing is great, but execution not so much. And we have seen this in many instances. In fact, we had a hangout on P Guru's, you and I, sir, where we talked about what happened in 2003 when Advani came, promised boots on the ground in Iraq, only for the prime minister to say the exact opposite on the floor of the parliament. So these kinds of things where somebody says, oh, if I allow this person is going to become more famous, and then therefore I will not allow. I'm not saying that's what happened in that case, but I'm free to think whatever I want to think, and that's how I think anyway. So, but so this trust factor is the problem, I think, that is there, and for that they need somebody who says what he does and does what he says, and I believe the jury is out on that as far as the Modi government is concerned in terms of acting on promises. Like, for example, in the 2015 trip, he promised a good, robust bankruptcy code bill. What came was watered down, and people are misusing that now to do something else. You see, this is where the problem is. You can't have a complex document like that given to some section officers or some people lower level and said, here, write the rules for this. And then it starts, the Babudam starts initialing 1, and then it goes to the minister and he signs it. Somebody has to get their heads and wrap this around. After all, the IAS exam is very competitive. People are brainy. Why aren't you applying your brains? You're doing it to get other things. Why can't you apply your brains to doing something good for India? I'm doing this on my time and my dime. Dr. Swamy is doing it on his time and his dime. We're not getting paid for this. In fact, if anything, there's a lumpen group sitting there just to try and poke holes on this video and they'll start criticizing us. So the thing is, if you're not going to get deterred, Churchill once said, if you stop to throw stones at every dog that comes in your way, you'll never reach your destination. So that is the whole point. I mean, we are going to path is down. We are going forward. So in Afghanistan, Dr. Swamy, if you remember, Professor Nalapad, and a few of us said that it is essential that India put some feet on the ground. We understand this culture. They are part of us. They know what it is. India enjoys a lot of goodwill.
Yeah.
And many times this gets promised in DC, and then the thing starts tapering down once it comes to. I would like Prime Minister Modi to refute what I'm saying right now, that he agreed to put boots on ground in Afghanistan only to come back and change his mind later when he landed in India. Please tell me you didn't do this thing, Prime Minister Modi. Because these are all the problems. You created this problem. If you had a problem committing, then you should have not committed there. You should have said, I have to go and think about this. What is in it for me? Do it like a businessman.
When and where did he commit?
No. See, these are all talks that people keep saying that,
only talk, whatever you heard.
In Obama as well as in Trump, they are saying that, there was a commitment. See, otherwise, why would General McMaster come all the way only to talk about this, only to be rebuffed by a defense minister who's still, finding her feet on the ground as far as defense ministry is concerned. So these are all basically what it is, some optics. Oh, somebody came and met. This optics zamana has gone. We want actual actionable work. These days, things are moving so fast. Who would have thought in a year ago that, this kind of new relationships would form, and that, or in plain sight, a country walks over another country and the whole world is just watching, doing nothing. Not only that, they abandoned the most state-of-the-art airbase, which could have been an easy listening post for America across the whole Middle East and Southeast, and they've just abandoned it. So what Mr. Biden has a problem. He has not been able to explain how and why they exited Afghanistan. But that is going to still play out. You see, what happens is the media here is completely like in India, sir. They are not really promising or showing the truth. For example, there was a report. Anyway, let's talk about it later. Sorry. Let's get back to Afghanistan. So I think this is as much India's making, that India couldn't deliver on some of the promises in terms of what they said they will do. And that is probably why America feels like these guys don't really mean what they say. If that mindset has taken root, then I think only action on ground will turn this thing around. And I don't know when that is going to happen. As far as Quad is concerned, you said you're absolutely right, Dr. Swamy, in that Quad has now become more of an optics thing. They don't really see. US has formed so many quads. On Afghanistan, it has a quad. On something else, it has a quad. And in Afghanistan, they've included Pakistan, China, Russia, and themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't think India has a role to play. And I will honestly ask you, sir, what role does India have to play? What did India do when their consulates were ransacked? You think that Afghan Taliban knew what to look for? No, it was ISI which was doing that. They probably, ISIS guys are wearing all those Afghan dresses and going in and looking. This is robbing. And what did India do? Did India even register a protest that you are not supposed to? This is territory of India. Even if the Indian officials had vacated the place, that place is still having a board saying that this is the consulate of India in any of those different cities. I would interpret that if it goes to International Court of Justice, that this is actually India's territory. Is my understanding wrong, Dr. Swamy?
Yeah, embassy is the territory of the country.
Yeah, so somebody ghusbait. They did ghusbait. I'm trying to tell you in language.
Violated Indian sovereignty. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And what did India do? So these are things that are important. So I'm sure the world watches. Just because Indians don't say anything, India's media doesn't say anything, doesn't mean that the world is not watching. The world is not as dumb as it looks. Yeah, it does do dumb things here and there. But the point here is, I think India brought this upon themselves, and I don't know when this mindset is going to change. Certainly, there is a lot that needs to be introspected by the team that comprises of Jaishankar ji and Prime Minister Modi and whoever else is involved in the foreign policy of India. That needs to really introspect. So what does it mean that if India is out of Quad, they're basically just using Quad to export vaccines? What does that mean for India? Yes, India can continue to export, but you see, it's not something where India has access to all the raw materials. They are called as it's an acronym. It doesn't matter. So can India deliver 8 million? Can India deliver 1 billion next year? I mean, it is possible. It depends upon what kind of a supply chain they have. So let us start somewhere. If vaccine diplomacy is going to succeed for India, that is fine, because this pandemic is not going away. And we know now that the Chinese vaccines, the two versions that they have come out with, they're not that effective. So China now has a genie that has let out of the bottle. Doesn't matter if it was by accident or whatever. And that genie is not going back in. And we don't know what kind of state of affairs are going to prevail 2, 3, 4 years from now. Certainly, if India has good vaccine capability, they should definitely leverage that and try and get back into position of prominence. And as far as the S-400, again, you and I, we've talked about this a long time, that there could be ramifications. And if there is sanctions placed on India, I'm afraid that is going to have a fairly negative effect on India's economy, because what will happen is many companies also might start looking elsewhere for the resources. There are many countries now who can offer same or better performance than India, Dr. Swamy. It's not, India is no longer the best IT provider, even for the low-level jobs. India is no longer the best. There are other people who can do even better than or the same. So that is where the problem is. I think I've said enough. So I'll let Ramesh ji weigh in on what he thinks about what happened.
All right, Ramesh, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Sree. It was I was busy writing down all your points so that I can fill in the gaps wherever you had left out. But okay, so Dr. Swamy, just coming back to your questions, you had 4 questions. One, was the visit worth it? And it begs to, because you said leave the UN part of it out of the equation. If you say if they exclude it, then there's nothing there. So what was the visit for to DC? I mean, the Quad was, it looks more to me like it's been shoehorned into this visit. So, you have to do something. So let's just create something. It appeared to be that. There are reasons as to why I feel that is that conclusion where I'm come to is, first, when the Prime Minister went to DC, the reception that he got was kind of weird. I mean, it was kind of out of protocol, a lot of the things, because he goes to meet the VP first. So it kind of felt completely out of place for our stature from a Prime Minister's perspective. You don't go into the main. I mean, obviously, I understand it's not a state visit. So you don't have the state, full state honors to, you don't have the guards, whatnot. But the visit itself was very strange and kind of, hodgepodgely put together. That's what, from a perspective, when we see it outside, that's what it looks. During the visit, there was not much coverage in the media. I'm just saying about mainstream American media. There's not much coverage for any of those visits. That basically the Squad didn't get that much traction. What took traction was the way this whole thing went about. I mean, one, I felt that the Vice President Kamala Harris kind of schooled Dr. Modi on democracy and all those things. It felt a little bit out of place again. And I really don't understand why that happened first, why the Prime Minister would go and meet the VP instead of the other way around. So that's kind of an odd visit. At the end of the day, the Quad meeting, if we look at it seriously, for what it's worth, which it's more, as I said, it's more of a facade rather than a real Quad meeting, because this had to be an isolated one. If you're having a very serious Quad meeting, in my opinion, the Quad meeting should have been an isolated, specific event, be it in Camp David, somewhere like that. It needs to have a lot of significance and push behind it. It's appeared to be, shoehorned it. The outcome seems to be very promising. Whatever they've said in the statement, a lot of opportunities. Sree covered a lot of those things. It has a lot of opportunities areas for India. I think if I take it positively, let's assume for a second that whatever the statement, joint statement, and the FAQ that has been put through it, if you look at it, there are two key areas that I think India has a huge opportunity on. 2 or 3 key areas. I'll just highlight them. One was basically pharmaceuticals. But number 2 is going to be cybersecurity. I'll tell you why these 3 are combined, and basically infrastructure / transportation. If you look at all these 3, the last 2 is very crucial because it's all targeting China, essentially. I mean, to some extent, saying that cybersecurity, if you look at it, there are 2 people on our borders who are constantly hacking not only in Indian infrastructure, but across the globe, be it China or Pakistan. I mean, they have known to do this cybersecurity. There have been threats to across the globe, number 1. Number 2, be it transportation, what we call as other security, like if you look at, you've talked about Malacca Strait. If we take the Quad seriously, India needs to push for this. I mean, India has been given an opportunity. Instead of just going and meeting and doing things, I think India should look at it as an opportunity to build on top of this. I'm not talking about a transactional level, build up 10 more IT hubs, build some more semiconductor fabs. Those are all very transactional in nature. In strategic standpoint, India should take this seriously and look at these 2 entities, China and India, as a pocket, and then say, okay, how do we take these objectives and do it? I don't think India is committed to that because, as Sree said, there is no commitment. It's just a lot of talk, marketing, but there is no commitment. It was very obvious, as Sree said, and you've been saying all along, is India's absolute lack of commitment to Afghanistan. Now we have a problem. Instead of us going and taking them, Taliban, who's going to be the bedrock for additional terrorism that's going to be pushed into India through POK, we should have fought them there. Now we're going to allow that serpent, that hydra, to come inside the country and create more chaos for us in the long run. That's exactly what you predicted, and it's absolutely going to happen. There was no serious mention of how are we going to handle Afghanistan in the meeting, even though it was like just for the sake of it being mentioned. So from that angle, the visit was basically, it was not worth it from my angle. The UN part of it, well, UNGA, 50 people attended the video. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know why, because probably COVID, but when you look at the crowd, there's nobody else. It's basically the Indian delegation and a few other delegations, maybe friendly countries, but it was a pretty low. The speech that he gave was excellent. He had hit all the nails. I mean, but at the end of the day, reception-wise, we just need to look at it and how effective it's going to be. Second, dealing with China. As you said, probably there was a talk between Biden and China before the Quad meeting, very tepid. Absolutely no mention of China and what's going to happen, how are we going to do. And as much that even in the speech, I hoped that the Prime Minister had taken the name of China and Pakistan in his speech. Not there. It's very crucial because you have a stage. It's a global stage. I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, a very rare opportunity. Why don't you have the biggest loudspeaker. Why would you fail to use that opportunity? So it's really baffling to me, saying that why would you miss the opportunity to mention 2 big aggressors, basically Pakistan and China, in that speech, which is fascinating to me. S-400, Dr. Swamy, I agree with you. The reason why this entire visit was very kind of cold, I don't think it was a warm visit like what when it happened with Trump. I mean, it was because that was a dedicated state visit. The amount of promises made. Again, the challenge, as Sree said, is India makes a lot of promises and never delivers. I mean, sometimes it happens in business as well, but we need to stop doing that and commit to ourselves, saying that, okay, let's just promise what we can do, not just keep on saying just for the world of it. Okay, I need, I have some ambitions. I'm going to get this award or that award or reward. Just focus on what needs to get done. I think that'll be a much better. And as Sree said, technically, we're not lasting too long. I mean, the low end IT jobs, even in the high end, moving away to Ukraine and that area these days. And nobody's going to seriously looking at India as a destination because it's getting more problematic to do business, because it's just, again, the same challenges that every other IT company has. People are shedding jobs like crazy. So it is very difficult. India has a lot of thing to prove. It has the wherewithal, as you said, we have the great workforce to do that, but we're not consistently never, ever delivered and what we promised. And again, if I look at the positive side, I think if I look at what's mentioned in Quad, India can take it. I really wish the Prime Minister makes Gadkari the lead, because they talk about green hydrogen, which you have been saying all along as one of the most important things. I think infrastructure is very key, be it on the energy side or on the real infrastructure side. I think there is a lot of things that we could do, but I'll just hold back. I'm not sure if that's going to get done. I think in Afghanistan, opportunity lost severely. The last point I want to mention was about the temple idols. I mean, we should definitely thank Vijay Kumar, Poetry in Stone. That guy single-handedly has done so much of work for following up with the U.S. Customs here to make sure that these idols are somehow or the other. As Sree mentioned, Kapoor, he was the big crook in this. I mean, he was in his warehouse in New York City. He has been diligent behind the scenes, never even come in the front saying that I'm doing this, but purely altruistic. So a lot of kudos to Vijay Kumar, who is based in Singapore. Thank you, Dr. Swamy.
Thank you very much. Let me first go to my colleagues and get their opinion, and then perhaps I'll give you another presentation based on what you have said in concise way for the audience. So first, shall I start with Arvind Jagdish, or shall you want to do it first?
Okay.
Arvind.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for giving me an opportunity over and above after Sree Iyer and Ramesh has spoken. A lot of issues have been covered, but when we are discussing the Indo-US relations' impact on them after the visit of Prime Minister Modi, we have to look at it from 4 points. First is Quad, second is the United Nations meeting, third is the one-to-one meeting between Modi and Biden, and fourth is whether there any joint statement issued by India and US.
Yeah.
About the Quad, a lot of things Ramesh said. Ramesh was very, very positive. And in fact, I share things with him because Quad is not geopolitics. Quad is for specific issues. And if we recall, even in the VHS Words of Wisdom program, once we were discussing Quad, at that time also I said, don't expect Quad to be political. Vaccination, COVID, of course, is specific. Environment, cybersecurity, 5G, technology, clean hydrogen fuel, solar energy, all those issues were discussed. And these are issues in which India has huge interest as far as developing India is concerned. So for the 22nd century, we need US help, we need Japan's help, we need Australia's help in all these areas wherever possible. From that point of view, I share what Ramesh is saying, that Quad is successful. In fact, I differ with Sree Iyer's term used. He said Quad is all optics. No, it is not. If you expect Quad to discuss Afghanistan, if you expect Quad to discuss China, I think, no, we are having too much expectation. Quad is not meant for that. Quad is not meant for that. One is that. Second is, as far as the United Nations meeting is concerned, Ramesh made two very important points. One is that Modi missed an opportunity of not mentioning Afghanistan by name and Pakistan by name, not mentioning Afghanistan and China. In fact, what Modi did not mention, our first secretary in the United Nations, Sneha Dubey, did, which was official statement. So whether it's said by Modi or whether it's said by Indian representative in the official channel of the United Nations, I think Sneha Dubey communicated the India's official version, and she said everything what Ramesh was expecting to be said about Pakistan. She smashed Imran Khan statement, and she smashed all the lies which Pakistan has been dishing out. So therefore, the United Nations was also a positive outcome. Third was one-to-one meeting with Biden and Kamala Harris. Maybe the priority whether Kamala Harris should have been first or President Biden should have been first, since it was not an official visit. So it doesn't really matter. And what matters most is the final outcome, and final outcome is the joint statement. Joint statement says all those things which India is expecting at this point in time. Now, look at the background. What was the background? Background was we had a vice presidential candidate in the United States called Kamala Harris, who had taken a negative stand on Kashmir. who had taken a negative statement of Indo-Pakistan relations. That was the background. Background was we had invited Donald Trump in Ahmedabad. We had organized Namaste Trump, and our Prime Minister has said, "Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar." With that background, what do you expect United States to say about India? So ice was to be broken. Ice has been broken. So we take it, even if it was not official visit of Prime Minister Modi, it was an ice-breaking visit, and the ice has been broken. Of course, with United States and India, if we look at the historical relationship between India and US, it has always been blow hot, blow cold. One step forward, one step backward from the United States side. And I'm saying this with three experts on United States politics sitting with me, Dr. Swamy, Sree Iyer, and Ramesh Swamy. Look at what happened in last visit, last 2 days. Negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. No official invitation. It was not official visit. Therefore, Prime Minister Modi was not given the official status, negative. Great favor by United Nations to Modi because no questions were asked about his vaccination. United States allowed Prime Minister Modi to move in with Covaxin, which is not even recognized by WHO, leave alone US. Negative. He lectured Mr. Modi on adopting Gandhiism. He said India should learn from Gandhi. Of course, India has been practicing Gandhi day in and day out. Who is President Biden to lecture India? Negative, positive. And when nobody received him at the entrance of the White House, well, Ramesh mentioned this, negative. But when President Biden met Prime Minister Modi, he almost hugged him. Almost, I'm saying, because of the COVID protocol, perhaps the Obama type hugging or Trump type hugging was not really in thing. So positive, negative. And no major coverage in US media. US media never takes the visits of prime ministers. Most of the prime ministers in last 10 years or 15 years who have visited, except one visit by Manmohan Singh and one visit by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, which had some kind of coverage. And in US media has also changed over a period of time. Therefore, we should not have expected coverage in the media. And overall, looking at all these things, I think the results are positive, and we should be hopeful of a better relationship as compared to February, March 21. Now we should expect a better February, March 20, in fact, not 21. February, March 20, when Namaste Trump was organized, as compared to last 18 months, this visit would certainly cement this friendship, and maybe India can look up to a better relationship. This is what I say.
Jagdish.
Now, my question or observation is, what has India really gained in terms of all this? Certain things we can do it, a video conference, certain things we went there, we say state visit, not a state visit, joint statement, no joint statement. But the sum total is, has India gained at all, or is there anything going to happen after the delivery of these aircrafts from Russia? So all those factors will have to be taken into consideration. The response in the United Nations, I'm sorry to say, being an Indian, and I'm feeling a little shy, but the pictures which has been put out by the United Nations official agencies show a very dismal picture of the audience of the world leaders in the United Nations watching Modi. In fact, it's a very poor picture. So I don't know in what terms. So if really the idea was you have to use that platform, there are various ways of making use of the platform. So still, as a common Indian, I am still lost to find out whether this visit was worth visit. Have we gained or not gained? I am really confused because there are different spins being done from different angles. In fact, today there is a video spread by the Andhbhakts and Gandhbhakts of Modi's previous lecture in the uh, United States organization meeting, or maybe the Senate or the Congress. They have put out that video today saying that this is the Modi's speech in US, showing, comparing it to the United Nations speech. In fact, many senior people asked me whether this is the relevant speech. I said, no, the relevant speech is available on the website, and you can see that it is, I got about 200 viewerships, 2 lakh viewership already. So I'm really confused of all this, whether it has been of any positive or where there are many things in the pipeline, because like previous visits, we will be told when the visits happen that it's very, very big visit. But afterwards, when things start coming out, we realize the repercussions. Now, whether Modi did a mistake by doing Namaste Trump in India, that's all for the future foreign ministry affairs to judge, whether they should have gone too close to the presidents in power or have maintained a distance, all those factors, because when they become a big hit, it's considered. Even if you see Kamala Harris's tweet, the tweet about her meeting with Mr. Modi was given so low priority. She tweeted it after many hours, after having met some other world leaders. So if you see from that angle, we have to see it from all the angles. So as a common man, I am really confused whether this visit was worth visiting to the US at all, and whether India has gained in any way, or whether this could have even been done on a in the virtual mode, Modi addressing the United Nations. So this is just my initial comments on this issue. I would like others to react to it.
Well, anybody wants to react to what he says?
Couple of things.
And Arvind also, you can react to both.
Yeah, a couple of things that I wanted to set straight. Arvindji, see, it was not just Prime Minister Modi who was visiting the vice president. Even the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, visited her, and so did the Canadian Prime Minister. So, in some ways, I don't know why.
Zambia also, by the way.
Zambia too. President of Zambia also visited. So these are all the ones that she tweeted about. We don't know how many more people visited. So I don't know why this is happening, but I know a little bit of other things happening in the White House. So I don't want to say anything on this channel here because it may not be related. But it also gives you a hint into how the future of the US politics is going to be, in my opinion. So let it stay there for that. In terms of, Arvindji saying that Quad is optics and nothing else, I mean, saying that it is not true, we'll have to wait and see, Arvindji, how this thing plays out, because Quad had a purpose and a reason when Trump was still the president. I don't know if you remember, the then Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, came to Delhi and he was aghast that India was not taking the name of China. He's saying, I am taking the name of China. You are not. What is wrong with you guys? Why are you not doing it? And for that, he was rewarded. Right now, he's banned in China. Mike Pompeo is a persona non grata in China.
Yes.
So it takes guts to say some of these things. I mean, he's paying probably a heavy price for that, because we don't know if that would weigh in on his presidential ambitions. We have to wait and see. But the point here is Mike Pompeo, he was the director of CIA before that. The man really, really said what he thought. And now, why can't the Indian leaders mention it? Arvindji, I'm sorry, the official statement may have panned Imran Khan and China. But do you think the Andhbhakts and Gandhbhakts are actually playing that up? Shouldn't they be doing that? But are they doing that? I don't know. Only when you told me just now, I realized that there was the official version that panned and slammed them pretty hard. But that should have been amplified. That should have, line to line, verse to verse. The channel should have analyzed it and said, this is the official position of India. Why didn't they do that? See, what is the problem with the communications? I really don't know how to fix this part. It's a simple thing. You can have press conferences like the way it happens in the United States. Have somebody, you can just say positives only. Keep on saying positives. If you can, of course, you have to back it up with data. That is where the problem is. So you don't have a way to back it up with data. Therefore, you don't give press conferences. Just give a statement and then let it go. We did this. Ground is not saying what you say that you will do. This is the problem, I think.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to?
No, Doctor, you go ahead.
That is Ramesh. Yeah.
No,
you
go
want to say
ahead,
anything
Dr.
about
Swamy.
these? Yeah.
You said you
go
wanted
on.
to say something, and if I have time, I'll say that.
Okay. You mean you want me to conclude?
Yes. No, not conclude. You said you had a few things to say based
Yeah,
on what
but
we told. And once you finish that, I will be. If we have time, we'll go over that because we have 11:26. I mean,
no. Let me say that the core issue, according to me, which should be addressed in a session like this, is that number one, we have Chinese occupying territory which they originally themselves said is till a mutual settlement is reached on the disputes on the territory is a part of India. So we accepted, for example, that Aksai Chin is presently with China and will stay with China till we come to a settlement. And this side, the Chinese said we have no claims whatsoever on Ladakh, and so Ladakh was concerned. That's how the line of actual control was drawn. 1993, mutually accepted both. China violated that after 18 meetings of Mr. Modi with Xi Jinping one-to-one. And one day they just walk in, don't tell you about it. And then we have a dispute where we have to fight with bare hands. I mean, a rule was passed by our foreign ministry that our troops will not use weapons because the Chinese say in that area we have an agreement that we will not come with weapons. So in Galwan it was all fisticuffs and stone throwing. So now the Chinese are in 4,000, according to me, 4,000 square kilometers of Ladakh. And yesterday, a Ladakh former MLA gave a statement that even the grass, the areas where we used to graze cattle, they have been taken over by China. It's there in if you go to any of the websites, you will get it. So you had this problem. Two, Pakistan, Taliban are hostile to you. They have a bonding with China. And Pakistan is an occupation of part of Kashmir. They have got infiltrators in India. They are trying to light a fire in Punjab. And they have also been there, and all your other neighbors are also in disarray because they can't choose between you and China. And right now, all our bordering states are now bending towards China. And so, in this context, to have a discussion with the United States President and insisting on a special dispensation for this because he was coming only for the UN, and if you wanted to meet one-to-one, well, you could have met him in New York because Biden also came to New York to deliver a speech. So you did not raise this fundamental security question with the United States. And vaccine and all is fine, but it doesn't have to be at the level of the heads of state or heads of government. Second is, when the Quad was formed, you please see the statement. They say that because of the primary threat to democracies from China, Quad is being formed. See the original statement. So if Arvind to say that Quad had nothing to do with China, that's not correct in view of the original objective. That has changed. Now we have reduced to environment and vaccine. Quad is for and they have formed another Quad with the Australians and the United Kingdom, which will deal with security aspects of Indo-Pacific, as if we don't have any security concerns. Indo-Pacific means Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean together have been put together as Indo-Pacific. So, and what happened is after the first Quad meeting, India then had a session with China on BRICS, on Indians, or with the chairmanship of Mr. Modi. And Xi Jinping was there. They both exchanged compliments with each other. Bonhomme was there. And subsequently, there was another called SCO, when China and Pakistan were both present. Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And then you expect the United States to help you in China or in Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan is now has got a stranglehold on because of this Haqqani group, which is now heading the three most important portfolios. And the Haqqani group is 100% Pakistani, or at least pro-Pakistani. And so the Americans decide, okay, now we have to deal with Afghanistan, then we'll deal with Pakistan. And I read out to you what, as the Prime Minister was meeting their president, where Mr. Foreign Minister of Foreign Secretary or the State Secretary of State was doing. So in this context, I am saying, what did you gain strategically? Nothing. You have made friends previously because there was some suspicion because you were with Donald Trump, and so you have overcome it. We are not. I am sorry to say, Arvind, we are not looking for a marriage, and to overcome or to avoid a divorce. The issue is that we have a major strategic matter. Chinese are occupying now. There are 800 villages the Chinese have constructed on the Arunachal border. That's also a news item today. So in all these respects, I think I have in fact taken it out and downloaded it. I've got it here somewhere. And I would say our relationship with the United States must be surely to fight China, drive them out, show that India is capable, and India is capable, but we lack weapons, we lack modern weapons. If S-400 comes, the Americans are not only not going to come with you, but they're going to put sanctions on you. And this is my prediction, I don't know. But this is what I've been told by knowledgeable Americans, that the sanctions notices are all ready and will be issued within 24 hours. So we are not looking for a popularity contest. That I was received here, I was given dinner here, I was given lunch there. We want India's security. And the India's security means to fight China, Pakistan, and whoever is with them. And for that, we need to be equipped, and we should have that as an objective. You can't dilute it by meeting your people who have aggressed on your territory. After misleading you, after 18 meetings and making a fool of you, you can't forgive them. But we are not even speaking about them. Has one statement come either from Mr. Modi or from Mr. Rahul Gandhi condemning China for occupying our territory, which was mutually agreed is our territory? The answer is no. So it is in this context I would like to see Indo-US relationship. Either don't have it, surrender to the Chinese, tell them take what you want. Surrender to the Pakistanis, say whatever part of Kashmir you want to take. Let us be in peace. Either you do that,
or pieces,
or put them to pieces. This is what I would say. Now you please react, Mr.
Dr. Swamy. I had just said one reaction. So the first thing, when you come to the US, what does India have to offer, Dr. Swamy, in exchange? Let's say if US wants you want all the weaponry, you want all of this. What does India back offer?
India offers troops.
Where? They're not able to
Anywhere
offer
they
troops even
want.
in their own land.
If you
No,
have,
Dr. Swamy, they're not able to send the troops into their own land.
no, that's different matter. But we are going to places where the Americans have created a base for you, like Iraq or then Afghanistan. Would have been very easy because we are there anyway, building libraries and universities
Dams.
and their parliament building and so on. And
No,
we had
right now-
4 consulates all over Afghanistan.
Yeah. Now, what does India have to offer now for US to help you?
Listen, that is your problem because you have now come down to a situation where you're in debt. And then you're asking the bank, you're asking question on behalf of the bank, what have you to offer if you want a new loan? So if you want, I can think about that in another question. But the question is, first of all, is this your objective? That you want a strategic alliance with the Americans? That would be the first question to be answered. Then only I can get into this question, what you can offer. There is no doubt a very strong opinion in the United States that we need a counter to China, and only India has the manpower to provide that counter.
We did not take that opportunity.
And we have not. And even today we say, okay, we'll fight China for you. If you want us to defend Taiwan, we are ready to send troops. You want us to fight for any other part where the forces are required, we are happy, but you supply the capital equipment for that.
I think
Why are you having S-400 when the Americans saying we will put sanctions on you? They have privately communicated it. We are not taking it seriously.
I think this visit was a huge opportunity lost, Dr. Swamy. That's
you may have lost it, but then you can't, fold up and say now it's all over. We are going to go back to sleep. You have to find correctives, and the correctives is by telling the Americans we are ready to condemn, fight on your behalf or in your interests with China, provided you fight and help us. Evict the Chinese out of our territory. Or if you want to be goody-goody with everybody, that you are welcome here, you're welcome there, like this American visit, you can even have a visit to Beijing. Tomorrow, BRICS meeting takes place in China. I'm sure Modi is going to go there to attend.
Okay. Arvindji?
Anyone else wants to say anything?
Jagdish had a point. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Jagdish.
my point is very clear. When India is not ready to name the aggressors, what do you expect from other countries to come to your help?
That's right.
If you are in trouble or somebody is troubling you, if you are not ready to name that troublemaker, then why would other countries want to come to help you? You are even feeling shy to name them as aggressors. It's a very strange situation, and you talk here, koi aaya nahi, koi gaya nahi, and all those type of things, and every effort is made to put in
not only not name them, but you have sat with them in conferences
for 18 meetings and continue to do so.
Even now, BRICS.
Now, yes.
SCO.
So it's a very strange situation. So how would some foreign country even look at you
with respect?
With respect.
Yeah, you have to demonstrate now that you mean that you will put, as the Americans say, put your money where your mouth is. Iyer?
Swamy, I have a question to you.
Just let me ask Iyer and then I come to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Swamy, I think Ramesh really hit the nail on the head. What does India have to offer? The boots on the ground, you could have just put 5,000 troops, because at that point, for the last 6 years, sir, only 2,500 American troops
were there. Yeah.
Only 2,500.
And we were training Afghan troops also.
Yeah, so 1-for-1 replacement, saying that you phase it down, we keep that thing, and the contractors can continue to run. India could have been sitting in that Bagram airbase today with a view of what is going on, and they would have effectively stopped Pakistan on its track. So what I am afraid the way this is going to play out is China is going to outsource the laying of the oil pipeline between Iran and China to Pakistan. They will say you have to create a pipeline which is crude, then another gas line, and you will have to put a road along that thing, a train track along that thing, and create a 25-kilometer buffer zone on either side of this. So no Afghan can come even close to that. This is the kind of plan that China usually does when they do something like this. And this entire thing is going to be outsourced to Pakistan. I don't know if they are going to be able to execute on this or not, because they couldn't do it in CPEC.
But the question is, let's worry about what we want to do to counter all that.
What are we going to do, sir? We are going to do nothing. We lost the opportunity in 2016.
Let's ask Arvind, because he's in a defensive
Yeah,
mood.
no, Dr. Swamy, I'm asking a question to you. And
Yes.
This issue of India not naming China as an aggressor. You have
Yes.
been raising this for maybe more than 6 months now, and consistently.
1 year.
And there are
From day one.
some sections in the media which very silently refer to this here and there, but they also cannot come out because we know what media is in India. Now, I'm asking a question to you.
They know what will happen to them
Yeah,
in terms
correct.
of their financial standing as a
Correct,
newspaper
correct.
or
Correct.
as a.
There may be
Yeah.
ED rates and IT rates and so on
Yeah,
and so
that's
forth.
right.
Some UP media has seen this.
Or it can be acquired also, right, Arvindji?
My question to you is specific. Why do you think government of India or your party is not doing it? Is it because of UP elections? That if we name China as aggressor and no action is taken against China and we get a bad name, we will lose UP? Is it only because of UP or because of internal
you
elections?
mean the people of Uttar Pradesh do not know that China is already there and
उत्तर
we are not
प्रदेश के
taking
साथ
any
तो सीमा
action?
लगी हुई है सर उत्तर प्रदेश
Huh?
के साथ सीमा लगी हुई है उत्तर प्रदेश की सीमा
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
ज़्यादा
That's why I'm
प्रभावित
saying you think that Chamoli is an area which is easy access.
Right.
They have, in fact, encouraged Nepal to lay claim to Lipu Lake, which
Yes.
is the way I crossed into when I went walking to Kailash Mansarovar.
Yeah.
So anyway, the issue is this. Listen, I know that the India government doesn't want to name. Why they don't want to name? How can I say this on this program? Because I have no proof, concrete proof to show. And what I will say will sound astounding. It will be all over the media and so on. The issue, Grace, is that there is a definite compulsion in this country that the network of the Chinese and the Russians, both, because Russia is a junior partner of China. Please understand that. I've seen lots of in Twitter people talking about our friendship with Russia. This is not Soviet Union, number one. It's not the old communist country which had a dispute with China on who's the leader of the communist world. This is a pure dictatorship in the most raw terms. And they are totally surrendered to China. Because after the Americans put their sanctions, they had borrowed from China, they are not able to pay back. Sri Lanka is in the same position, although Rajapaksa is struggling to see whether India would come and be an alternative in financial terms. And we are not doing it because our two bureaucrats, Mr. Jai Shankar and Mr. Doval, they strut around like commissars when they go to Sri Lanka and like pussycats when they go to United States. So I think the question when you ask is what can India do? India can tell the United States, you and I have a common objective to check China. You may do it in different language, we'll do it in different language. But if there's ever a threat to Taiwan, if there's ever a threat to any other part, Australia or Japan, our troops will be available. But you modernize our armed forces. and help us to sit with Indonesia and block the Malacca Strait whenever a Chinese ship comes. You know that Malacca Strait is, it's I think as big as Suez Canal in width, and on one side is Indonesia, the other side is our Andaman, in the Car Nicobar, and therefore, if we are here and they are there, no Chinese ship can go through. So therefore, you see, I've been reminded just now. The Panchatantra had a beautiful story about a bat, which like Modi went to with China on BRICS and then went to America. The bat told the rats, the animals that, see, I look like a rat and I am part of the animal world. So in your war, which was developing between the animals and the birds, I am with you because of the fact that I'm an animal. And they went and told the same thing to the birds and then didn't turn up for the war. But then halfway through the war, these two had a peace treaty. And then they said, where is the bat? And then they exchanged notes. So both went hunting for the bat, and that's why bat never comes out during daylight and is always hanging upside down to confuse everybody. So we are like the bat of Panchatantra. We are here, we are there, and nowhere. And let's be very blunt. People were very critical of anyone who told Jawaharlal Nehru, you are doing a wrong thing with China. And by the way, Chinese, I'm not rabidly anti-Chinese. I've been their friends. I still would like to be their friends. They are finest people as individual citizens. They are cultured like us. They have a tradition like us. Their family system is like us. I would like to be friends with them. But if you have come stealthily and taken our territory, which we have mutually agreed is my territory, then you have betrayed me. Then we have to fight. And you can't do it by talking, because all the time we have been talking, they've been increasing their presence in India. Yes, anyone wants to add anything? Otherwise,
yeah, we're done, Dr. Swamy. Yeah, 11:50, yeah. 20 minutes over. Yeah, go ahead. Arvindji.
We have already exhausted about 75 minutes.
Arvind, you are concluding?
Yeah.
Or Jagdish is concluding? No, anyway,
Arvind.
either of you.
Yes.
Arvind.
Indo-US relationship.
Arvind, okay.
It is such an issue which can never be actually defined in one dimension or the other. There are so many different dimensions there. We have 4 seasons in a year, and the US response to India varies with every season. And how many seasons we have to see like this, that every few months daily hot, blow cold relationship between India and, I already said, one step forward, one step backward. This will continue. More importantly, what is to be seen in the very near future is what Dr. Subramanian Swamy has been warning. And that warning is what happens when S-400 deal arrives. When it happens, how the US is going to behave. Few minutes back, he has said, maybe there will be sanctions, but that India has to be prepared in advance. Whatever response US will show when the Russians deliver S-400 to us, when India names China, whenever it happens, if India names China as an aggressor, will US be willing to cooperate with India to fight China, Afghanistan, and Pakistan nexus? That means, will India and US will form an axis in order to respond to these 3? That is yet to be seen, and that is in the future to be observed. Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for giving us your views. Thank you, Mr. Sree Iyer. You have provided a different perspective today. You being an Indian and being in US for a number of years, You have been observing which way the wind is blowing between India and US, and our co-host Ramesh Swamy. Thank you very much for. I think this rich content provided by you three will be liked by our viewers, and they will be benefited by these different points of view which you have put forward. Thank you, Jagdish. Thanks to the technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Ishwar Iyer, Gadgi Rakesh, Tejas, Swaminathan, Vishal Mehta. We will be meeting again next Sunday, 8 p.m. Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga, with a new issue with Dr. Subramanian Swamy and with a new guest. Thank you very much. Till then, Namaskar. Jai Hind.
जय हिंद, धन्यवाद.